Good morning students. Today's class we see about the third year BSc Nursing Supplementary Examinations of 2018 Nursing Research and Statistics. The first question is define nursing research, enumerate the need for nursing research and characteristic of good research. According to Pollitt and Beck in 2004, so this is a systematic inquiry designed to develop the knowledge about issues of importance to the nursing profession, including nursing practice, education, administration, informatics. Burns and Dove in 2005 defined nursing research as a scientific process that validates and refines existing knowledge and generates new knowledge that directly and indirectly influence the clinical nursing practice. Trees and Trees in 1973 defined nursing research includes the breadth and depth of all disciplines of nursing and rehabilitative, therapeutic and preventive aspect of nursing as well as the preparation for practitioners and personnel involved in total nursing sphere. Need for nursing research is to develop nursing theories which serve as a guide to nursing practice and can be organized into a body of scientific knowledge. Second, to discover and develop valid ways and means of nursing action. Third, to identify relationship and provide answers to guide the practitioner in her decision-making process. Nurses are accountable to their students, clients, and to document the roles as well as to demonstrate quality of care. Society is demanding the required services from the health team of which nurses are an important member. Evidence-based practice increases the need or importance of nursing research. EBP demands high quality and rigorous nursing research. EBP indicates clinically appropriate, cost-effective and result in positive outcomes for the clients. Characteristic of a good research include it direct towards solution of a problem, it emphasizing the development of generalization of principles of theories, it demands accurate observations and descriptions, it involving gathering new data from the primary first-hand source of or existing data for a new purpose, it is carefully designed, it requires expertise, is striving to be objective and logical, it involves the cost for answers to be unsolved problems, it is carefully recorded and reported. It is orderly and systematic. That means a good research is orderly and conducted in a systematic way. This is the single most important criterion in a scientific research. Based on professional issues, a fundamental purpose of any research is to resolve any current issues of a profession. Therefore, a good research must be based on the current professional issues. A good research must come up with the solutions to a professional concern. Begin with clearly defined purpose. A good research is begin with a clearly stated purpose. Only a clearly defined research with a clear purpose can be conducted in an effective manner. Emphasize to develop, refine and expand professional knowledge. The main aim of any research is to develop the body of knowledge of a profession or define the existing knowledge. Therefore, good research is directed towards expansion of a professional body of knowledge. Directed towards of development or testing of theories. A theory development and testing is a systematic process of inquiry in any discipline. Only good research aims and develops or tests a theory. Problem solving. The first and foremost importance of a good research is finding solution to existing problem. A good nursing research is directed towards finding an answer to or pertinent solutions for emerging professional problems. Dedicated to develop empirical evidence. A purpose of good research is to generate empirical evidences which can be used to improve the professional practice. Therefore, a good research strives to develop empirical evidences. Adequately communicated. The new knowledge obtained from a good research remains useless until and unless it is adequately communicated to its users or stakeholders. Therefore, a good research activity strives to communicate findings as widely as possible. Short notes. First one is interview method. Interview is a verbal conversation between two people with an objective of collecting relevant information for the purpose of research. It involves not only conversations but also learning from the respondent's gestures, facial expressions, pose, and his environment. Types of interview include structured interview, otherwise it is also called as standardized interviews. This means data collection which interviewer has an interview schedule in which they have to be answered. Second type is unstructured interview. These interviews also called non-standardized interviews. These methods where in the questions can be changed to meet the respondent's intelligence, understanding, skills, etc. Third type is focus group interview. Focus group interview is an unstructured interview which involves moderator leading discussion between a small group of respondents on a specific topic. Its purpose is to gain insight from appropriate sample or target population. Fourth one is in-depth interview. This is an invasive and investigative interview conducted and aimed studying the respondent's opinion, emotions on the basis of interview guide. This requires more training and interpersonal skills than a structured interview. Telephone interview. Telephone interviews, the information is collected from a respondent by asking him questions on the phone is called telephone interview. The combination of telephone and computer has made this method even more popular. Advantages of interview method include: first is opportunity for feedback, second is probing complex answers. That means interviewers can investigate the respondent's answer is too brief or unclear. This gives interviewers some flexibility in dealing with unstructured questions, is especially suited handling complex questions. Third is length of interview. If the questions are very lengthy, the personal interview is best technique for getting the respondents cooperative. Then complete the questionnaire. In the interview, the interviewers respondents will answer all the questions which we ask. But in a long questionnaire, they are unlikely to be unanswered. Some questions may unanswered. Then props and visual aids. Interviewers opportunity to showing respondents items, their sample products, graph and sketches. Then handling index participation, high indexing participation. Interview respondents personally can increase the likelihood of their participation. Many people participate directly. Disadvantages: first is cost. Personal interviews are usually more expensive than mail, telephone and internet surveys. Lack of anonymity. Respondents are not anonymous in a personal interview and may unwilling to disclose certain information to the interviewer. Necessity for callback. When a person is selected for an interview cannot be reached at the first time, a callback has to be scheduled, which results in extra cost and time spent. Variance effect. It has been shown that demographic characteristic of an interviewer can influence the answers of the respondents. In one study, the male interviewers had much larger variance of answers than the female interviewers in the sample of most female individuals. Dishonesty. Interviewers cheat to make their life easier and save time and effort. Personal style and style techniques. Interviewers approach the individual questioning demands or may influence respondents' answers. Objectives in research is the third short note. The qualities of objectives in research include: it is clear, concise, declarative statement which gives direction to the investigate the variable. It should be SMART. S for specific, M measurable, A attainable, R realistic and T is time bound. They should be relevant, feasible, logical, observable, unequivocal and measurable. Summarizes what to be achieved in the study. Research objectives are specific accomplishments the researcher hopes to achieve by the study. It covers different aspects of problem concisely. It clearly phrased in operational terms and logical sequence. Need for research objectives are: first one is focus. It may give focus for the study. Second, it avoid unnecessary data collection. And thirdly, it organizes the study and give directions to develop research methodology. Sampling technique. Sampling is the process of learning about population on the basis of sample drawn from which. Types are mainly two types. One is probability sampling and second one is non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is a sampling scheme in which every unit in the population has chance of being selected in the sample, and this probability can accurately be determined. Among the probability sampling, the first one is simple random sampling. It is the purest form of probability sampling, assures each element in the population has equal chance of being included in the topic. Second one is systematic sampling. It relies on arranging the target population according to some ordering scheme and then selecting the elements at regular intervals through the ordered list. For example, if we have 100 samples and we are taking every fifth sample, so the 5th, 15th, 25th, 35th means 45, 55, like this the list goes on. Then cluster sampling. The primary sampling unit is not the individual element but a large cluster elements. Either a cluster is randomly selected elements within the randomly selected. Then stratified sampling, that the population embraces number of distinct categories. A frame can be organized into separate data. Each stratum is then sampled as an independent subpopulation out of which individual elements can randomly selected. Second type of sampling is non-probability sampling. Any sampling method where some elements of population have no chance of selection or where the probability of selection cannot be accurately determined. It involves selection of elements based on assumptions regarding population of interest which forms the criteria of selection. They are, first one, convenience sample. The sampling procedure used to obtain those units of people most conveniently available. Second, judgment or purposive sampling. The sampling procedure in which an experienced researcher selects the sample based on some appropriate characteristic of the sample members, that is to serve the purpose. Third, quota sampling. The sampling procedure where the researcher ensures equal or proportionate representation of the subject depending upon which trait is considered as basis of the quota. Snowball sampling. Sampling procedure in which initial respondents can be chosen by probability or non-probability sampling method. Then additional respondents are obtained by information provided by the initial respondent. The fifth short note is true experimental designs. The true experimental design are those researchers have complete control over the extraneous variable and can predict confidently that observed effect on the dependent variable is only due to manipulation of the independent variable. The main characteristic are manipulation. It refers conscious control of the independent variable by the researcher through the treatment or interventions to observe its effect on dependent variable. Control. It refers to use of control group and controlling the effects of extraneous variable in which researcher is interested. Third is randomization. It means that every subject has equal chance of being assigned to an experimental or control group. Randomization is used in true experimental or research designs to minimize the threat of internal validity of study and to eliminate the effect of extraneous variables on dependent variable. The types of true experimental designs are, first one is post-test only, composed of two randomly assigned groups, experimental and control, but neither of which pre-tested before administration of treatment and experimental group. For example, a study to effect educational intervention related to urinary incontinence help to seek the behavior. So here we select two groups and the experimental, there is no pre-test has been done. The experimental group has been given the treatment. Then we have done the post-test using the same questionnaire or the same method for the two groups. Second is pre-test post-test only. Subjects are randomly assigned to either experimental or control group. Effect of dependent variable on both group is seen before the treatment. Later the treatment carried out on experimental group only. After the treatment, observation is dependent variable is made in both groups to examine the effect of manipulation of independent variable on the dependent variable. For example, this is the experimental group and control group, and both the group we have done the pre-test and the experimental group we have given the treatment, and both the group we have done the post-test using the same questionnaire. The third type is Solomon-Fogg group design. Here we have two experimental group and two control group. The investigator randomly assigns subject to four groups. Out of four groups, one experimental group and one control group receive the pre-test, followed by the treatment to experimental group 1 and experimental group 2. Finally, the four groups are received the post-test where the effect of dependent variables are checked. So here we have two experimental group and two control group, and there is two, means one experimental group and one control group we do the pre-test, other two groups we do not do the pre-test, and we do the treatment for the experimental group 1 and experimental group 2, and for the groups we have done the post-test. And factorial design. This researcher manipulates two or more dependent variables simultaneously to observe the effects of dependent variable. This design is useful when there are more than two independent variables are called factors to be tested. For example, we want to observe the effect of two different protocols of mouth care on the prevention of ventilator-associated pneumonia when performed at different frequencies in a day. The design facilitates testing several hypotheses at a single time. So here the frequency 4th hourly, 6th hourly, 8th hourly with chlorhexidine and saline has been observed. Then randomized block design. When there are a large number of experimental comparison group, randomized block design is used to bring homogeneity among a selected one. So here the researcher want to examine the effect of three different types of antihypertensive drugs on patients with hypertension. To ensure the homogeneity among the subject under treatment, researcher randomly place subjects in homogeneous groups or blocks. The type of antihypertensive drugs and type of patients with hypertension where only the type of drugs is manipulated and type of patients with hypertension are simply grouped in different blocks with similar characteristics to ensure homogeneity. Crossover design. In this design, the subjects are exposed more than one treatment where the subjects are randomly assigned different orders of treatment. It also known as repeat measures design. For example, we are comparing the effectiveness of chlorhexidine and saline mouthcare protocol. First, we administer chlorhexidine and mouthcare in the protocol on a group 1 and saline mouthcare for the group 2. Later, we swapped where the group 1 received saline mouthcare and group 2 received chlorhexidine. In such studies, subjects served their own control. Advantages is it is the most powerful design, greater degree of purity, conditions not found in natural setting can be created in experimental setting, conditions can be created in a short period of time that may take years to occur naturally. Disadvantages include ethical problems. Many human variables neither have valid measurable criteria nor instruments to measure them, not possible to impose control over extraneous variables in natural setting, difficult to get cooperation from the study subject. The sixth question is test of significance. Once a sample data has been gathered through an observational study or experiment, statistical inference allows analysis to assess evidence in favor or some claim about population from which the sample has been drawn. This method of inference used to support or reject claims based on sample data are known as test of significance. Every test of significance begin with a null hypothesis H0. H0 represents theory that there has been put forward either because of it is believed to be true or because it is used as a base of argument but has not been proved. The types include, there are two types, one is parametric type and non-parametric type. Parametric tests are also normal distribution statistical tests. The statistical methods of inference make certain assumptions about populations from which sample is drawn. They are t-test, z-test and ANOVA. Non-parametric test is used when the nature of distribution or other required population parameters are unavailable. If samples are too small to test the hypothesis and generalized findings for population from which samples are drawn. They are chi-square test, median test and Mann-Whitney test. Draw a histogram. So here is the histogram. The eighth question is historical research. Historical research is undertaken to answer questions concerning causes, effects or trends relating to past events that may shed light to the present practice or behavior. Historical research involves systematic collection and critical evaluation of data relating to past occurrence of particular phenomena. Characteristics include a focus on a careful study and analysis of data about the past event. Historical research is a critical investigation of events, development, index, experience of the past and careful weighing of the evidences of validity of information of the past and interpretation of the evidence. The purpose of historical research is to gain clear understanding of impact of the past on the present and future events related to the life process. It involves detailed analysis of what has been written or done and used to describe, explain or interpret these events, to solve contemporary issues, learn past from failures and success, make predictions, to reevaluate data in relation to selected hypotheses, theories and generalizations, to understand how and why educational theories and practice develop. Steps of historical research are identify the research topic, formulate the research problem or a question, data collection or literature review, evaluation of materials, data synthesis, report preparation of narrative exposure. Ninth question is qualitative research. Qualitative research is primarily an exploratory research. It is used to gain an understanding of the underlying reasons, opinions and motivations. It provides insight into the problem or helps to develop ideas or hypotheses for potential quantitative research. Qualitative research also used to uncover trends in thought and opinions and go deeper into the problem. The characteristic of qualitative research design include it does not begin from a predetermined starting point or proceed to a fixed sequence of steps, but it involves interconnection and interactions among different design components. In qualitative research, any component of the design may need to be reconsidered or modified during the study in response to new developments or to change in some other component. The designs are flexible rather than fixed and inductive rather than following a strict sequence or derived from an initial decision. The design should be a reflexive process operating through every stage of a project. The types of qualitative research are grounded theory, ethnography, phenomenology, field research and case study method. Advantages: because of closer in researcher involvement, the research gains an insider's view of the field. This allows researchers to find issues that are missed by the scientific, more positive inquiries. Qualitative descriptions can play important role of suggesting possible relationship, cause, effect, and dynamic process. Qualitative analysis allows ambiguities, contradictions in the data which are reflection of social reality. Qualitative research uses descriptive narrative style. This research might be particular benefit to the practitioner as she or he could turn qualitative report in order to examine forms of knowledge that might otherwise unavailable, thereby gaining new insight. Disadvantages include: because of the time and cost involved, qualitative design do not generally draw samples from larger scale dataset. Problem of adequate validity or reliability is a major criticism because of this subjective nature of qualitative data and its origin in single context, difficulty to apply conventional standard of reliability and validity. The time required for data collection, analysis, and interpretations are lengthy. Analysis of qualitative data is difficult, and expert knowledge of an area is necessary to try to interpret qualitative data. And great care must be taken when doing so. For example, if looking for symptoms of mental illness. The 10th question is review of literature. It has been discussed in the previous question paper, so please do refer that. And 11th question is writing a research report. Research report is a condensed form of brief description of what has been done by the researcher. It involves several steps. Present report in the form of a dissertation. The purpose include present in a conference, publish in a journal or articles, get grant or financial aid, have implications or recommendations in clinical practice, education and administration. A good research report should possess the following characteristics. They are: research report must be concise, clarity, honesty, completeness and accuracy. A research report must be long enough to cover the subject content and short enough to maintain interest among the users and consumers. It must be written and presented logically so that different pieces of research process fit effectively. Abstract terminology and technical jargons must be avoided in the research report. Presentation of the research report must be lucid and visually attractive so that it can be interesting to its users. Research report must reflect its originality. Steps in the research report include: first is logical analysis of the subject matter, preparation of final outline, preparation of rough draft, rewriting and polishing the rough draft, preparation of bibliography, writing the final draft. Differentiate between primary and secondary data. Primary data are those collected from the first day. They are original. They are in the form of raw materials. They are more reliable, suitable for inquiry because collected for a particular purpose. No particular precautions of editing required unless while using primary data. Collecting primary data is quite expensive both in terms of time and money. Secondary data are those data have been already collected by some other person. They are not original. They are in the finished form. They are less reliable, less suitable. Means they have very precautions has to be taken while editing essential. Then second data requires less time and money, hence it is economical. Mean and median. The average arithmetic of a given set of number is called as mean. Application for mean is normal distribution. There are a lot of external factors that limit the use of mean. Means found calculated by adding all values, dividing total by number of values. Mean considered as the arithmetic average, highly sensitive to outlier of data. It defines central value of a data set. Median is the method of separating higher sample from the lower value. Primary application to median is skewed distribution. It must be more robust and reliable measuring data or uneven data. Median can be found by listing all numbers available. Median is considered as a positional average. It is not much sensitive to outlier data. It defines center of gravity of a midpoint of the data set. Nominal data and ordinal data. Nominal data are those items distinguished by a simple naming system that the data with no numeric values is profession. Nominal data just name a thing without applying to an order. Nominal data cannot be quantified. It cannot be assigned to any type of order. The values only allocated distinct categories. For example, gender, religion, hair color, marital status. Ordinal data which place some kind of order by the position on the scale. For example, they indicate superiority. Ordinal data placed into some kind of order. Ordinal data numbers show the sequence. For example, first, second, third position in a competition, educational level, customer rating scales and experience on a 1 to 10 scale, then economic status of a person. Frequency polygon and histogram. Frequency polygon are analogs to line graph. Just like line graph make continuous data visually easy to interpret, so to do frequency polygon. To construct frequency polygon, first examine data, decide number of intervals or class intervals, use an x-axis and y-axis. After choosing appropriate range, begin plotting the data point. After all points have been plotted, draw a line segments to connect them. Histogram consists of continuous boxes. You have a horizontal axis and vertical axis. The graph will same shape with either label. Histogram can give us the shape of data, center and spread of data. It is used to represent statistical information by ways of bars to show frequency distribution of a continuous data. Validity and reliability. Validity implies to an extent to which the research instrument is measurable, what it is intended to measure. A valid instrument always reliable. Related to accuracy, it is more valued, assessment is difficult. Reliability refers to degree to which the scale produces consistent result, which repeated measurements are made. Reliable instrument need not be a valid instrument. Related to precision, value is comparatively less, assessment is easy. Thank you. Thank you for listening.